North End days.
Yeah.
Anybody remember the North End days?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got some people here. There's one back there, is a North End day back there in the blue shirt. We'll get him to tell us a little bit too, a little bit later. There they are in about 1948. So let's see. A guy named Earl Keller and Russ Sutton both told me, 15 years ago maybe, hey, there was this group of kids that played baseball around the North End. They called themselves the North End A's, and they had a good story to tell. You ought to talk to them. Well, a couple of years went by, and finally, a guy named Ray Horn came to me and said, I have some material, let's get together. Well, it was 1946. Carlisle had some changes going on. The war was over, all the changes, but boys played baseball. All day, every day, at Matheson Field. Everybody remember Matheson Field?
Yeah.
It's out around Pitt and C Streets.
Yes.
For these guys, they never heard the term before, but they felt it. It was a field of dreams. They played any other team they could find, they would play them. They were the best team in town. There were a lot of teams in Carlisle. And they were a close group of boys. Ray Horn was the driving force, not only in getting this project started, but about 1947, he and two guys, one George Darhauer and Dick Shearer, who were players, started talking about maybe they ought to form a club and have some structure, just instead of just going out and playing baseball all day, they'd have a structure to lean back on. Well, on July 15th, 1947, they had the first meeting at the home of the Johnson, 154 East Street. They had 16 boys at the meeting, an advisor, Russ Petro. Russ was a law school student who was living with the guys. He was a friend of theirs. He was living with them while he was doing the law school. I think he was a fighter bomber pilot in the war. So right away, they organized Carl Nicholson, who at that time was 17, and most of these guys were, at that point, 15, 16. Ray was 16. Carl Nicholson, the oldest, was elected president. And right away, he set some rules. I don't know if you can read that at the bottom. I'll read it to you. This is a copy right from the minutes that were taped. President Nicholson made some rules of order that there will be no smoking by any club member before or during any club meeting in the clubhouse. Vulgar language is also to be cut out. Any person not adhering to the rules of order, second page, would be asked to leave. So they were pretty strict with the rules there. If you have any questions as we go along, just holler out. Ray had about 2 years worth of club minutes that somebody had found in Friendship Firehouse when they were cleaning up out there. So he had all of 1947, every meeting minute, and most of 1948. So we had those to go back on. Ray organized a group of 4, 5, 6 guys. And we sat around his dining room table. Dick, how many times did we meet? About 4 or 5 times?
I'd say it was at least that.
Yeah, Nancy, Ray's wife, made coffee for us. She made homemade donut holes, particularly cinnamon sugar. They were good. By the second meeting, there were more boys who were interested. At the third meeting, 4 were voted in. Dick Callan, these names, most of these names will be familiar to you. Dick Callan, Rod Jenkins, Art Keck, and Dick Darr. Now, Dick Darr, put your hand up, Dick, just so everybody knows who you are. Dick Darr was a special case. He lived in the North End, but what made you eligible, Dick? Because you're really 13 years old.
13.
Dick Shear, he and I spent a lot of time together because our parents spent a lot of time together. And although he was 3 or 4 years older than me. I was sort of big for my age. And he pretty much talked them into letting me in the club because he felt I could help them baseball-wise.
Okay, so the real reason that Dick Dollar at age 13 got in the club is he could play baseball. He could play baseball. Also, that means they planned a picnic at Cave Hill. One of the decisions they made was that girls were optional. I don't know if that ever changed after that or not.
Dick sure did.
1947, what do you think the average wage rate per hour was in Carlisle? What do you think? Just $1? It's not here $1.
29 cents.
29 cents? Can somebody get in between? 50 cents an hour was the average rate. So 50 cents, could buy 10 Hershey bars for a nickel. Cheeseburgers, 19 cents. Chuck roast, 41 cents a pound. Those are all from the paper in 1947. So these guys who have been playing together since the time they were probably 6, 7, 8 years old, they're built.
Chuck roast is now $7.99.
Okay. Not to be confused with 41 cents, right? So at 47 now, they're organizing into a club. Some of the things they needed, balls, gloves, bats. Common analogy, you could buy a fielder's glove, they say, for $1.95. Some of the parents weren't all that crazy about kids playing baseball all the time. Sonny Walton's dad would not buy him a glove for a couple years. Then he had to borrow his uncle's glove. Bats. Where do you think they got their bats?
Proctor was probably from the bigger team.
Right, from bigger teams. Particularly Bob Adams on the Maslin team. There were a lot of broken bats. So every bat that these kids were using were made with wood, glue, screw, and black tape.
Yeah.
Everyone. But the balls were new. They played with new balls. Baseball is the bottom of Cochran now. Reach balls. And I don't know how much they cost. I tried to find out, but I didn't get it. But so they needed some fundraising. They met one time in Sonny Walker's house, and his dad had a big garden in the back. So his dad said, boys, you can pick those beans out of the garden and take them out and sell them and raise some money. They also ran an ad called the North End Boys Club, any Tuesday or Friday between 9 and 4, they had their lawn mowed. So they're raising money any way they could. Generally, the goals of this group were to promote good sportsmanship, rules of life. Russ Metro was real big on positive training for these guys. So they had usually exemplary behavior. Usually. There were a couple of instances, one, Ron McKillop looked at 2 pitches coming across that were called strikes, and after the second one, he turned to the umpire and said, in my opinion, those 2 pitches were not strikes. McKillop, you're out of here. Welch struck 3 times, struck out on 3 dingy pitches, he said. He tapped his bat on the home plate, uttered a mild curse word. The umpire said, Welch, to the bench. So there were a couple, but they've been pretty strict. Pretty strict. These were usually fathers who were umpiring. And the games were all organized amongst the players themselves, one team against another. Dick?
I just wanted to mention that umpire lived lived on the 400 block of North Pitt Street, and the nucleus of this group was on the 400 block of North Pitt Street. So he knew all these kids from the time they were babies.
Right.
And he was a tough guy. I mean, he didn't give us any advantages.
Who was that? I'm going to say Carlisle.
Bill Arbogast.
Arbogast. Bill Arbogast.
And we have one here.
Okay. All right, Bill Arbogast was the umpire.
Bill.
He was an artist.
Primary competitor was Mechanicsburg. They opened every season on Memorial Day was doubleheader with Mechanicsburg, and there was a lot of respect. This fly has been flying around here since 1947. A lot of respect between these two teams. On a couple of occasions, Mechanicsburg asked the North End A's to come and play benefit games. One for a kid that was hurt, sliding into to a base a couple of weeks ahead of that. And another was for a local politician, I guess, that they needed some benefit for. On that one, when the A's quickly said, yeah, we'll do that, they went to Mechanicsburg and got a standing ovation when they got to the ballpark. And when the game was over, they got another standing ovation. And as we talked about that with this group, everybody remembered that, but nobody remembered who won the game. They played teams from Newville to Dillsburg to Nola, New Cumberland, Mechanicsburg, all arranged between team members. Somebody from Enola would call them North End A's, they'd arrange a game. How'd they get there? Transportation. A couple of guys had cars, particularly 2 or 3 guys that didn't play ball had cars, and so they would transport some people. Mr. Darnauer had a pickup truck. Nancy Goodyear, who was Bob Asian's girlfriend, had a car. She would take care of her. And Ed Belsilver had a car. Ed's car could best be described as being mechanically challenged. And its biggest challenge was the brakes. One game they were coming, a game with New Cumberland, they were coming back through Mechanicsburg, and they got to the light in Mechanicsburg, and they knew the car was not going to stop at the light. So 3 or 4 jumped out, got out in front, pushed it back on the car, and got it stopped just before it got there. And there was a patrolman sitting over here, or standing on the corner over there, watching this. As they got the car stopped, he said, boys, push it over here against the curb and leave it there until you get those brakes fixed. Another time they had played in Enola, and Eddie missed a turn on Enola Road, and the car flipped over. Guys, nobody was hurt. They jumped out, picked the car up, turned it up on its wheels, and made their way on home. So his car entered into a lot of colorful stories. Team had standouts. Horn had a good curveball. McKillop and Walsh were very fast. Ron McKillop said his batting average was 300 and he never hit a ball out of the infield. Dyer was a great hitter. Scholarship to Syracuse, tryout offers from both the White Sox and the Red Sox. But when he was a little older, playing for high school, it said they played high school games at that point on John Hayes Field, which is now where Weiss is. And he says this, he's telling me this, I didn't read it anywhere, that he was taking batting practice and hitting balls over the silk mill, which is that big building. Coach Atkins said, Dick, try hitting the other direction. We can't afford to lose any more balls over there. Johnny Guiley, multi-sports. We'll talk about something that he did a little bit later. Glenn Stahl was the captain in the 3 sports. He was an all-American tackle, played football on the first team of All-Army. He got a tryout from the Indians. Bob Winters was a great catcher, played Army baseball nearly his entire service time. And there were other players that were equally good. They were well-rounded. Fishing, several of them fishing. Ray caught Dick Dart fish with worms, and he always said that Dick always knew how many worms were left in his bait can. And then Sonny Walsh taught Dick to fly fish, and that was the end of the worms. Right, Dick?
Yep.
He caught his first trout on a 10-cent fly, I think, and the lead tore it down, that runs through the barracks. They had to party, swing, dance, same thing. A lot of them belonged to Boy Scout troop, particularly St. Paul's. So it wasn't just baseball, but baseball was primary. They had a great press agent. They probably played more games than this, but this was every clipping I could find. Starting July 14th, 1947. I found 9 clippings, 7 wins, 1 tie, and 1 loss. They did other things. They heard speakers, benefit game in Mechanicsburg. Newville, big competitor in Newville too. North End boys, Edge Newville. Newville defeats Carlisle. The end of the season, the North End boys played the Old Timers. If you can read the Old Timers, I don't know if you can read that or not, but they're fathers. But almost all are fathers, and the boys won. And October 3rd was a football game. That game was between Carlisle and Hershey Industrial School. And Hershey was expected to blow Carlisle off the map. But Carlisle won. They stunned Hershey. One of the guys that played there got hurt on the last play of the first half. Gene Shettery, sitting right back here in blue and white. Put your hand up, Gene. He was just telling me a while ago. Well, you get up and tell that story.
Well,
You tell it.
No, the story was, it was almost halftime. And this big, he was a big guy.
Oh, big guy, yeah.
Come through the line, and I tackled him, he ran right over me and knocked me out, and I woke up. They were all, the whole team was down at the other end of the field. You know, they didn't have a field house or anything to go to. I was looking around, nobody was standing to me. I got up and marbled down. Started the second half, though.
Yeah, started the second half. Scored a touchdown in the second half, I believe. He's won.
Gene, excuse me, could I ask him a question? Gene,
What?
was that John Hesbar?
Yeah, that's the guy. He was a big boy.
Yeah, very big.
Yeah.
So that's why they're clipping in there. I thought that Gene would be here tonight, so. 1948, that brought some new issues. The boys started talking about getting uniforms. Prior to this, they'd been playing in a maroon t-shirt. So Russ Fetro made arrangements with Cocker and Allen to get uniforms put together. It would be $25 a piece, but each boy had to find a sponsor for his uniform. Put his name on the back. Now, for instance, Bob Bailey was the first one in with the sponsor. He had Roof Chevrolet because his dad worked there. Ray Horn, we have his uniform here. Go ahead, Sean. There's Ray's uniform. That's a nice lightweight nylon or something, isn't it, Sean?
Doesn't feel like a nice lightweight. Feels like that would be a little warm on a July afternoon.
So Ray got Cocker and Allen to sponsor his uniform, $25. Next another $25 then was $300 now.
50 cents an hour, it took a while to make, but then
Took away.
it
marriage to sell on.
No wonder.
I come a little bit later, Sean, don't get ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
Everybody had, companies, sponsored insurance companies, whatever. Now, one of the guys had an inn because his mother had a business. But his mother's business was a beauty shop. And so Dick Dar had to wear a uniform that had a beauty shop on the back. He said it also made him a little uncomfortable. Well, what'd you bat that here, Dick? Then there were other issues. Graduation was coming up. These guys now are getting 17, 18 years old. So they were going to be leaving. And then they got an invitation to be a junior legion baseball team. There was no junior legion baseball in Carlisle at the time. So they would be the first junior legion baseball team. Now I lost my uniform term. But on one shoulder, and one of the things that was attractive to Junior Legion and Post 101, they already had their uniforms. Oh, Legion didn't have to buy many uniforms. All they had to do was put this patch on the left shoulder and the forward sponsorship patch on the right shoulder. George Dorhauer, one of the fathers, managed now the Junior Legion team. And right away they start winning. Again, still. And during this time, at the same time, Joe Louis quit boxing, undefeated. There they lost, but Babe Ruth was critically ill during this time. Now that next article, Carlisle tops Chambersburg 6-0. Does that sound like baseball? November 11th, 1950?
No, but I was there.
I'll bet you everybody in this room knows that was there. Gene, were you there?
No.
Oh, I'll bet you were.
Gene was out of school.
I know you were out of school. You can see that the subhead there, Guy steals the ball and dashes 55 yards for a 9th win in a row. John Godwin was about this tall, maybe a little taller, maybe not. And the article starts out and says he looks like the wind would blow him over. The game was all set up. Chambersburg was undefeated, Carlisle was undefeated. It was for the South Bank Conference Championship. 2 minutes to go in the game, nothing. They had a big back, Mike Waters, who Carlisle was able to contain. And Eddie Schatzer, with about 2 minutes to go, got the call, and he was racing to the sideline, and he looked at his hand, and the ball wasn't there. On the 45-yard line, John Gowan took the ball out of his hand and ran 55 yards for a touchdown. And there wasn't anybody within 30 yards behind him, because nobody, it took a while for him to realize what was going on. Now, I saw that happen. Who else saw that happen? Yep.
I was about 10 yards from that play.
And Dick was in the game. 10 yards from the play.
John taking the ball, yeah, I saw it.
Did you know what was happening?
I did.
I mean, the place went crazy.
It wasn't planned. I mean, I think John just was, I think it was an instinct thing that
Right.
he saw the ball and he took it from the,
Right.
took off.
I guarantee you that article was the most often read article in the Sentinel the next morning ever. And probably still is. When you get a story that was a good story, it was written pretty well. You just read it and reread it. There was no football practice Monday. There was no school Monday. It was a big deal. So now Carlisle's undefeated for the year. All they have to do is beat Mechanicsburg. 2 weeks from there on Thanksgiving Day. Remember Thanksgiving Day games at Mechanicsburg? What, 10,000 people? Thanksgiving afternoon. So this is Friday night, November 11th, November 24th, Thanksgiving, Mechanicsburg. Mechanicsburg won 19-7. They won the game, but Carlisle still had the conference championship. We just weren't undefeated because Mechanicsburg had already lost to Chambersburg. So the reason that's up there is because Johnny Geiling was one of the North End A's, and he wasn't just a baseball player. To put a fine point on it, here's a roster from April 27th, 1949, baseball roster on a report of the game. There's either 12 players on that roster, 7, the highlighted ones, are North End A's. So 7 of the 12 players on the high school baseball team in 1949 were North End A's, previous North End A's. And then they are 1948. Ray Horn's got the circle around him over here in the front. I'm going to let that up there. I'm going to come up and see you guys are playing before you get up here. Big guards in the second, in the middle row all the way to the right.
13.
So, questions?
13 years old.
Any questions? Dick, go ahead.
I was going to mention something about that Mechanicsburg game. The first half, we dominated them. I don't remember the sequence, but Sam Alexander was one of our halfbacks. He was going in for a touchdown, and the ball popped up in the air, and they got it on the 1 yard line. And
Right.
they held us. Then a little later, Geiling scores, called it back on the penalty. They
Right.
held us. I scored right before the half, and that's where we got our 7 points. We come out in the second half, and it was like running in sand. We just couldn't do anything right. It was the most frustrating thing I think I ever experienced.
2 scores called back up the wind right out of
We had
it.
3, we should have been up by 3 touchdowns, and we were up by 1.
Those Thanksgiving Day games are great times, though. I wish they still do that. I forgot to mention one thing about Dick. He had a choice to make. He really liked to fish. And Coach Hector gave him the choice to come to Saturday practice or go fishing. It wasn't come to Saturday practice after you get back to fishing. It was come to Saturday practice or go fishing. And Dick decided to go fishing. And that was the end of varsity baseball.
I was a starter on as a 9th grader, and then Sam Sanzato, who was a varsity line coach, football and JV baseball coach, called me out of homeroom and asked me what happened, and I told him, and he said, well, when do you have to do this fishing business? And I said, well, weekends or before school in the morning, but I said that was the first day of the season. I never missed the first day. And that's why Mr. Ecker kicked me off the team. He said, well, would you come and play for me? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I played for the JVs that year. And rest is history.
Okay, that's all I have.